Hey guys, welcome back. I am Ashish and today we'll be continuing with our module 1 introduction, and after having dealt with meaning, scope and significance, Wilson's view, evolution, NPA, we'll move today ahead with public choice theory or public choice approach, that is PCT. Now, having said that, I want to request you to please go back and watch all the videos in order if you haven't watched them. The links for this channel and the playlist would be in the description of this video, so please go ahead and do that because everything would be interconnected, and I will use some terms and definitions which I have already dealt with in the previous videos. So moving ahead with public choice approach today. Public choice approach or public choice theory, whatever you may like to call it, PCA or PCT. Basically, one thing that you need to know about public choice approach is more choice with people or more choice with public. And public here means public goods and public services. It does not include private goods and private services. It only talks about public goods and public services. And while we give public goods and public services to people, people should have more choices about those. So that is the crux of public choice theory. We will see about it in more detail now. It was developed by a number of eminent scholars in a variety of ways. We'll talk about those scholars also, what all those scholars are. UPSC has asked in previous papers about those scholars of public choice theory, so we'll learn about those scholars also. Essentially a critique of bureaucratic model of administration. Now in previous sessions we have already dealt with this. Bureaucratic model of administration essentially means a hierarchical model of administration, a top-down model approach which is mainly driven by rules and principles. So public choice theory essentially is a critique of this traditional model or bureaucratic model of administration. And remember one thing, public choice approach and new public administration, these both evolved on a very similar timeline. They both evolved side by side. So obviously whatever new public administration criticized about, most of those criticisms will also reflect in public choice approach, but the way of going about those criticisms is different. So they essentially both of them criticize the bureaucratic model of administration, that is the old or traditional or hierarchical model of administration. PCA deals with possibility of institutional pluralism. Now for those of you who are new to this, do not get bogged down with these heavy words, do not get confused with these heavy words. These words actually mean what they look like. Institutional pluralism essentially means plurality of institutions. There should be more institutions. Institutions for what? In the provision of public goods and services. So public choice approach essentially deals with possibility of institutional pluralism in provision of public goods and services. As I had already told you, public choice approach essentially is nothing but more choice with people. So if you give them more institutions in the provision of public goods, obviously it would mean more choice with the people. A very basic example I would like to give you here is of Indian Railways. If you apply public choice approach, what happens is the theory suggests that there should be more institutions in provision of public goods. So Indian Railways is the only institution which is servicing the railways part of the transportation. There is no competition to it. So there is only one choice to people in the area of railways, that is Indian Railways. So if we apply public choice approach, the theorists of this approach would suggest that there should be plurality of institutions, not only just one institution servicing the needs in a given area. There should be plurality of institutions. There should be institutional pluralism. That is what PCA basically deals with. PCA deals with possibility of institutional pluralism in the provision of public goods and services. Plurality of governments and public agencies is supported on the ground of consumers' preferences. That is how consumers' preferences would be improved. That is how people will demand more. That is how people will demand better by the way of plurality of institutions, agencies and governments. So there should be many institutions, there should not be monopoly. Understand this. PCA is basically against the monopoly of government in any field of service. So if you have to take away any one idea of PCA, take away this idea, that is it is against the monopoly. It is for more choices to people. It is against the monopoly. It is for institutional pluralism. Vincent Ostrom is one of the key proponents of PCA.
Now every field has some key proponents, like New Public Administration had Dwight Waldo, your scientific management has F.W. Taylor, we'll learn about him. Vincent Ostrom is the key proponent of public choice approach. So what does he say? He says that concept of democratic administration should be there alongside the conventional idea of bureaucratic administration. What is bureaucratic administration? The hierarchical administration, the top-down approach model. So alongside this should be there, but there should also be a concept of democracy. There should be a concept of democratic administration. What does this mean? True power in the hands of people. Again, everything connects to people because it is public choice approach. So concept of democratic administration. आप rules principles वाला administration तो चलाओ ही चलाओ, लेकिन people demand should be the utmost priority. So concept of democratic administration alongside the conventional idea of bureaucratic administration. He gave one quote regarding this. It is a very big quote. Now we'll understand this by breaking it down in separate parts. He says that perfection in something will reduce the capability of administrative system. Okay, you remember these words. Perfection in something will reduce the capability of administrative system. So what is this system? Consider these words now. Hierarchical ordering of a professionally trained public service accountable to a single center of power. This means nothing but traditional bureaucracy. Public choice approach theorists are always against traditional bureaucracy. They are against traditional bureaucratic administration model. And what does this model represent? Hierarchical ordering. Hierarchy जो होती है, that is represented by the traditional bureaucracy. Hierarchical ordering, the top down approach model. Okay, so hierarchical ordering of a professionally trained public service accountable to a single center of power. एक single center of power होता है. There is no decentralization, there is a high level of centralization. ठीक है, so there is a single center of power. Such single center of power, hierarchical ordering of a professionally trained public service. ठीक है, जो पुराने ज़माने की traditional public service होती थी, that was hierarchically ordered, that had a single center of power. So ऐसी traditional bureaucracy में, ऐसी hierarchical bureaucracy में which had a single center of power, ऐसी ट्रेडिशनल ब्यूरोक्रेसी में अगर परफेक्शन लेके आएंगे, परफेक्शन इन दिस विल रिड्यूस द कैपेबिलिटी ऑफ अ लार्जर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सिस्टम. What capability? Capability to respond to diverse preferences among citizens. I hope you have understood this now. Perfection in this type of traditional bureaucracy with hierarchy and single center of power. Perfection in this type of bureaucracy will reduce the capability of administrative system to respond to diverse preferences among citizens. Citizens की preferences पर respond नहीं कर पाएंगे. Now you do not need to remember this quote as it is. Okay, this is not an important quote. अगर एग्जाम में पूछा तो इस quote को क्वेश्चन में कोट कर देंगे और आपको बोलेंगे analyze. You do not have to remember this as such, okay, but remember the idea behind this, remember the crux of this. They are all against the old bureaucratic model of administration. They are all against the monopoly of government in certain fields of services. So this is what Ostrom suggests. Perfection in this type of bureaucracy will reduce the capability of larger administrative system to respond to diverse preferences among citizens for many public goods and services and with diverse environment conditions. So जो public goods and services में जो citizens की preferences होती हैं उसको serve करने की capability reduce हो जाएगी if you perfect your traditional bureaucracy. So they are against this traditional bureaucracy. So having dealt with Vincent Ostrom, we'll deal with Vincent Ostrom in detail in future slides when we'll deal with all these scholars. This is just an introduction and I am trying to give you an idea of what the basic idea of PCA or PCT stands for. So this is what it is. They ask for a variety of different organizational arrangements. Again the same thing, institutional pluralism. They ask for a variety of different organizational arrangements that can be used to provide the different public goods and services. The same idea, institutional pluralism. ठीक है, there should be a plurality of institutions for servicing consumers' preferences. तो ये वही आइडिया है. Such organizations can be coordinated through various multi-organization arrangements. अभी इतने सारे organization आ जाएंगे. When there will be plurality of institutions, there should be coordination between them. So they also suggest that such organizations, such plural organizations can be coordinated through various multi-organizational arrangements. And this is how Public Choice School locates public administration within the domain of politics and and an appropriate theory of political organization. So what this does is, now understand some basic thing. PCA, public choice approach, and NPA, new public administration, were happening at almost the same time. Okay, they were against the traditional idea of political administration dichotomy. They were against, both of them were against the traditional idea of कि dichotomy होनी चाहिए, politics should be different. So both of them tried to locate public administration within the domain of politics. They said that dichotomy नहीं होनी चाहिए. Okay, so this is how public choice approach tries its part to locate the public administration again within the domain of politics. How do they achieve this? They say that politics is nothing but giving choice to people. People should be given choice of preferences, choice of plurality. So this is how public choice school locates public administration within the domain of what? Politics and an appropriate theory of political organization. So moving ahead now, public choice theory, it is essentially a state reducing and market expanding doctrine. So understand this, state reducing, what does this mean? Reducing the monopoly of state. A very good example would be the Indian Railways. So reducing the monopoly of state in certain field of services, and market expanding doctrine, justified by its view that government decision making is not based on individual citizens' interest. Government decision making is based on a collective interest. It is not based on an individual citizen's interest. This is what public administration says. We will see in future slides that one of the main goals of public administration theorists was methodological individualism. So we'll see that in future slides, do not worry about that. But basic goal of public administration was individual citizens interest, not the collective interest. Government decision making जो होती है, that is based on a collective interest. It does not take into account the individual interest. It might differ from individual interest. So PCT says that every individual's interest should be taken into account, and that is what they suggest by plurality of institutions, state reducing and market expanding doctrine. They say that public choice approach is based on a behavioral assumptions that human beings are individualistic and rational economic. There are some basic assumptions behind every theory. So public choice approach also has some basic assumptions behind it. These basic assumptions are: human beings are individualistic. All the human beings, whether they are bureaucrats or politicians or your normal consumers, every human being are individualistic. They think about their own self-interest. They are individualistic and rational economic. Every individual thinks rationally. What is rational? Rational thinking is when you have a problem, you find multiple alternatives to that problem and then choose the one best alternative. So that is, you have arrived at a rational solution. So this is a rational thinking. So every human being is individualistic. They think about their own self-interest, and they are also rational economic. These are the basic assumptions behind public choice theory. This is what the theorist of public choice approach assumed about human beings. So some examples for these assumptions are: thus the civil servants are self-aggrandizing bureaucrats interested only in expansion of activities under their charge and increasing the department's budgets. Every human being is individualistic. Similarly, the civil servants are also self-aggrandizing. Self-aggrandizing matlab they assume too much power among themselves. They are power consuming bureaucrats interested only in expansion of activities under their charge. सिर्फ उनका जो काम है वो बढ़ना चाहिए. They artificially expand their work. These are some of the high level arguments against civil servants I am telling you. These will come across in Max Weber's criticism. When Max Weber gives us a ideal type bureaucracy, उसके criticisms हम पढ़ेंगे. There we will learn about all of these, Parkinson's law and everything, that civil servants are self-aggrandizing bureaucrats interested only in expansion of activities under their charge and increasing the department's budget. This is very self-explanatory statement. Similarly, as civil servants are individualistic, similarly the politicians also, the political leaders also are vote-seeking politicians, maximizing their votes for परपेचुएटिंग देयर स्टे इन पावर. ठीक है, एक ही सोल एंड होता है, एक ही मेन एम होता है पॉलिटिशियंस का, वोट लो, मैक्सिमाइज देयर वोट्स एंड परपेचुएट देयर स्टे, इंक्रीज देयर स्टे इन पावर. फॉर दिस दे गो ऑन recklessly promising more and more programs. So they promise more and more programs but do not achieve them. This is what they mean by individualistic and rational economic assumption of human beings. Even voters, public choice theorists say that not only civil servants and politicians, even voters are individualistic. Every human being is individualistic. Major propositions of PCT. Now we'll look at what PCT actually proposes. So first thing that it proposes is there should be methodological individualism. Now what is methodological individualism? It rejects the viewing of society as an organism and considers holistic approach misleading. एक holistic approach जो होती है, जो collective decision making होती है, that is misleading. It rejects the viewing of society as an organism. It emphasizes on individualism and more appropriately methodological individualism. Now these words are heavy, but these are not difficult words. Remember them because these words represent what they look like. अगर आप कोई भी नया word देखते हो एग्जाम में, for example neoclassical, what does neoclassical mean? It means which comes after classical thought. Classical thought is something which is based on hierarchy, top down model. तो ऐसे सब classical thought होते हैं which is based on rules and principles and everything. So neoclassical is against that. So individualism, what is individualism? Not the group thinking but the thinking about only individual entities, not the collective decision making but the individual decision making. So what is methodological individualism? It simply rejects the viewing of society as an organism. एक collective organism नहीं होना चाहिए. It considers that holistic approach misleading. Holistic approach जो होती है that consider everyone as one, that is misleading. They say even while studying collective entities and groups, individuals should remain the unit of focus. अगर आप collective entities and groups को consider कर भी रहे हो, if you are even making collective decisions, the unit of focus should always remain as individuals. Groups, organization or even society are nothing more than sum of individuals comprising them. So what are groups and organization? They are nothing but sum of individuals. So this is nothing but methodological individualism. It is very easy if you actually take a moment and consider it and remember these words, because these words are important. Whenever you write any answer about public choice theory, any answer, you should always mention these heavy words because these make your answer more technical. It makes you more eligible to clear the exam. So the next proposition of PCT was rationality of man. As we had seen in the earlier slide, they suggest that every man was individualistic, every man thought about their own self-interest. So this is what rationality of man proposes. Each and every individual has the ability to rank alternatives in order of preference and choose the best alternative. This is what rationality means. Rationality क्या होती है? What is rational thought of approach? As I had talked about it in previous slide, it is nothing but if you have a problem, you find all the alternatives to that problem, and then out of those alternatives find the best one based on the pros and cons of all alternatives. That is your rational thought. आप rationally हर प्रो एंड कॉन को वे कर रहे हो एंड देन यू आर चूजिंग द बेस्ट ऑल्टरनेटिव आउट ऑफ दोज. सो ईच एंड एवरी इंडिविजुअल हैज द एबिलिटी टू रैंक ऑल्टरनेटिव्स इन द ऑर्डर ऑफ प्रेफरेंस एंड चूज द बेस्ट ऑल्टरनेटिव. ह्यूमन बिहेवियर इज डोमिनेटेड बाय सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट. नाउ सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट डज नॉट ऑटोमेटिकली मीन रैशनैलिटी. ओके, रैशनैलिटी इज अ वेरी आइडियल कंसेप्ट. इट यूजुअली डज नॉट डिनोट सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट because rationality means weighing the pros and cons and choosing the alternative which has least amount of cons and more amount of pros. But as a human being, human behavior is always dominated by self-interest. Every individual is utility maximizer. So rationality may be a idealistic concept, but still while implementing this rationality, self-interest always comes into play. Every individual is utility maximizer. They always try to maximize their utilities. They are always dominated by their own self-interest. All participants in the political arena, be it politicians or bureaucrats and voters, all the human beings act to maximize their own gains. Everyone is dominated by their own self-interest. This is the second major proposition of public choice theory. The third proposition is concept of politics as a means of exchange. Now as a means of exchange, this we'll see in future slide what this means, because that would be explained much better as a means of exchange. But concept of politics, now remember something, that PCT tried to bring back public administration into the fold of political theory. They were against the old classical ideas of politics administration dichotomy. They were booming at the same time as that of NPA, new public administration. So they tried to bring back administration into the domain of politics. So the concept of politics also was introduced by or proposed by public choice theory as a means of exchange, that we'll see in future slides. So what concept of politics that they proposed was challenges the notion of public interest theory. Public interest theory क्या होता है? That government acts in the interest of public, that whatever decisions government makes, whatever decisions the bureaucrats make, they make it in the interest of public interest. This is nothing but public interest theory. नाम बड़े बड़े हैं ये सब, public interest theory, public choice theory, but on the crux of it, the idea is very simple. Public choice theory क्या होती है? Choice in the hands of people, plurality of institutions. Public interest theory क्या होती है? Decisions made in the interest of public. So this is very simple. So PCT challenges the notion of public interest theory. They say that the simple view that government collective decision making process will solve the social problems selflessly is just romanticism in politico administrative theory. So what was the classical view? That government makes collective decisions, ठीक है, government collective decision making process, and this collective decision making process will solve the social problems. If government takes some decisions based on collective interest, public interest, this public interest decisions, this collective interest decisions by government will solve all the social problems selflessly. This was the simple view, the classical view, and public choice theorists say that this simple view is just romanticism. This is not true anymore. You cannot do collective decision makings and solve the social problems at the same time. That is why they are against the social approach. That is why they are against the collective approach of decision making. That is why they emphasize on individualism. Okay, so they are against the notion of public interest theory. They say that government collective decision making cannot solve the social problems. The natural consequence of public interest approach, according to PCA, the natural consequence of public interest approach is state overload. State overload क्या होता है? Enlargement of public sphere. For example, again I will tell you, Indian Railways state overload का एक बेसिक एग्जांपल होगा इंडियन रेलवेज भाई, बिकॉज इट इज वन फील्ड वेयर state is overloaded with the fulfillment of public choices. So natural consequence of public interest approach is state overload, but state overload in itself has some consequences. Now we'll learn about those in the next slide. Negative consequences of state overload. According to public choice approach theorists, the natural consequence of public interest approach is state overload or enlargement of public sphere. We saw this in the last slide. In turn, this overload has following consequences. The government machinery becomes unwillingly large. उनके पास बहुत सारा काम हो जाता है, they become unwillingly large. This calls for an increased public revenue and thereby increases the tax burden on citizens. If there is no competition, if there is only one institution serving the needs of so many people, so that institution will become unwillingly large and it will in turn increase the tax burden on citizens. Most of this tax burden is spent on maintaining the government and very little is left for actual provision of goods and services. As you can very well see, if there is only one institution providing certain services, the quality of those goods and services do not increase. Why? Because most of the tax that is taken is spent on maintaining the government and very little is spent on actual provision of goods and services. So quality depreciates or quality remains the same, or better yet, it depreciates over the years. The quality of goods and services depreciates. In absence of market conditions, what are market conditions? The basic market condition is competition. In absence of market conditions, there is no compulsion to innovate. Innovation नहीं होता है market conditions नहीं होंगी तो, because there is no competition. Why will you innovate, right? There is no compulsion to innovate. There is no compulsion to raise the quality and reduce the cost. There is no compulsion for this. It increasingly becomes inefficient. In absence of market conditions, it increasingly becomes inefficient. A large government machinery increases the powers of bureaucracy, threatening the democracy. ठीक है, bureaucrats become self-aggrandizing. They assume too much power in themselves, and this is what threatens the democracy. There are no incentives for public servants to perform. Bureaucrats और public servants को कोई incentive नहीं होता perform करने के लिए. अगर आप अच्छा काम करोगे तो you will not get rewarded. So there are no incentives for public servants to perform, and that is how complacency sets in. What is complacency? Self-sufficiency. And this self-sufficiency is not true actually, but still this self-sufficiency वाली feeling जो होती है, it sets in. In absence of organizational pluralism, a citizen has no freedom of choice. अगर एक ही organization होगी which is serving the needs of citizens, in absence of plurality of organizations, a citizen has no freedom of choice. This is very obvious, and that is why public choice theorists जो होते हैं, they argue on plurality of institutions, institutional pluralism. Remember these words: methodological individualism, institutional pluralism. Public choice theory का कोई भी आंसर लिखोगे, make sure you use these words somehow. This will make your answer more technical and more beautiful. So these are the negative consequences of state overload. So these negative consequences were there. What were the prescriptions by PCA theorists? We have already seen that. We'll see it again in short. The role of state should be minimized. State मिनिमाइजेशन एंड मार्केट एक्सपांडिंग थियरी है ये पीसीए थियरी जो है, दैट इज स्टेट मिनिमाइजिंग थियरी. द रोल ऑफ स्टेट नीड्स टू बी मिनिमाइज्ड. द स्टेट मस्ट कैरी आउट ओनली दोज एक्टिविटीज विच आर विद इन इट्स कॉम्पिटेंस. द एक्टिविटीज वेयर प्राइवेट सेक्टर हैज गॉट एक्सपर्टीज, ऑल सच एक्टिविटीज have to be transferred to them. In the previous session, if you remember, we had discussed the theory of neoliberalism. Now if in exam UPSC asks you to compare PCA with neoliberalism, this is what you should write. Both of them argue for the same thing: minimization of state role, state minimization and market expansion. These activities where private sector has got expertise, जहाँ पे private sector के पास expertise है, all such activities has to be transferred to private sectors. Even in those activities in which the state must keep itself, there should be multiple agencies delivering the same public good. ऐसे sectors जहाँ पे state को private को नहीं देना है, where state has to service the needs itself, even in such activities there should not be one agency, there should be multiple agencies delivering the same public good. Such kind of institutional pluralism, such kind of plurality of institutions, multiple agencies, it ensures competition. And if possible, even these services should be contracted out or leased out to private parties. So this is what the prescriptions by PCA theorists for consequences of state overload. So there were some major contributors to PCA. We'll learn about them, 4 of them actually: Gordon Tullock, Anthony Downs, Vincent Ostrom, which is the main person, and William Niskanen. Now UPSC has already in 2011 asked to compare 2 of them, Anthony Downs and William Niskanen. So do not consider them irrelevant, they are very much relevant. In 2011 Public Administration Paper 1 में question आ चुका है to compare William Niskanen and Anthony Downs. So please pay attention on this. Gordon Tullock is one of the earliest contributors of PCT. There were many early contributors. He is one among them. He is one among the earliest contributors of public choice theory. For him, the study of politics, bureaucracy and policy making, all of this, ये सारे subjects हैं, politics, bureaucracy and policy making की जो study होती है, this study should be based on certain assumptions of human behavior, that human beings are rational and mainly pursue their own self-interest. This is what we saw, basic assumptions of public choice approach. And who gave this? Now you know that this is given by Gordon Tullock. The basic assumptions of public choice theory about human beings was given by Gordon Tullock. अगर आप इस नाम को कोट कर सकते हो आंसर में, योर आंसर विल बिकम मोर ब्यूटीफुल. गॉर्डन टुलक suggested that there should be basic assumptions while studying politics, while studying bureaucracy, while studying policy making, assumptions about human behavior. He gave some examples for these assumptions. According to him, some of the assumptions can be political parties contesting elections to make excessive promising of winning elections. We saw this, right? Politicians in power maximize likelihood of winning elections. They perpetuate their stay in power. They maximize their likelihood of winning elections through manipulating the economy. Power of bureaucracy has increased by serving itself rather than public interest. We saw this. Everyone is individualistic. Everyone is dominated by their own self-interest, be it politicians, be it bureaucrats, or be it even voters. So power of bureaucracy has also increased by serving itself. Self-service, self-interest का जो domination होता है हर individual पे, it comes into play at every level. Politicians in government will attempt to manipulate and stimulate the economy before an election and deflate the economy after an election. ठीक है, इलेक्शन के पहले इकोनॉमी को स्टिमुलेट करेंगे, मैनिपुलेट करेंगे. Who will do that? Politicians in government, to show people that how good that government is performing. जब इलेक्शंस आने वाले होते हैं, just before those elections, they will increase this economic stimulation and they will manipulate that the economy is growing, so that voters are given a false assurance that there is a growth in economy. So they will manipulate and stimulate the economy before an election and deflate the economy after the election. So this is how politicians in government perform. This was the words of Gordon Tullock. Often the government expenditure on programs would be huge and visible to people before the election, only to impose taxes after the election. तो जो एक्सपेंडिचर ऑन गवर्नमेंट प्रोग्राम्स होता है, मनरेगा का जो एक्सपेंडिचर होगा वो इलेक्शन के पहले बढ़ जाएगा. सो एवरी एक्सपेंडिचर विल इंक्रीज जस्ट बिफोर द इलेक्शन एंड आफ्टर द इलेक्शन टैक्सेस विल इंक्रीज. सो दिस इज हाउ गॉर्डन टुलक सेज दैट सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट कम्स इनटू प्ले, एंड दिस इज व्हाई ही सेज दैट देयर शुड बी बेसिक assumptions of human beings. Moving on to our next thinker, Anthony Downs. Anthony Downs, he wrote one book, Inside Bureaucracy. No need to remember this book. So he wrote this book, Inside Bureaucracy. He argues that motivation of individual officials are diverse, such as power, money, prestige, security. बहुत diverse motivations होते हैं. Some people might get influenced by power and money. Some people might get influenced by only prestige. Some people might get influenced and motivated by just job security and nothing else. So motivations of individual officials are diverse, he says. And hence he categorizes bureaucrats into 5 types. He says that there are 5 types of bureaucrats. The first one he says is climbers. The climbers are concerned with power and prestige only. They are climbers. They just want to move ahead in their political or bureaucrat path. So they are concerned with only power and prestige. They are not concerned with moral ethics. They are not concerned with public. They are not concerned with anything else. सिर्फ उनको अपना power और prestige से होता है. And these kind of bureaucrats are called climbers. The second type of bureaucrats he says are conservers. Conservers are minimizing change. Minimizing change as in keeping what is as it is. They want to retain the traditional way of working. These are the second type of bureaucrats. Third type of bureaucrats he says are zealots. What is zeal? What do you mean by zeal? Zeal means enthusiasm. Enthusiasm to do anything. So zealots are nothing but who are filled with enthusiasm. So zealots are highly motivated officials. They are filled with enthusiasm. They are highly motivated officials. They are motivated to commit, to push for a policy or a program. They are highly motivated. So these are a kind of zealots, as said by Anthony Downs. These are the third kind of bureaucrats. Fourth kind are advocates. They are concerned with maximizing the resources of their bureau. That is all they are concerned with, that the resources of their bureau, be it the financial resources or the personal resources. Personal as in people, PERSONNEL, personal resources. So they are concerned with maximizing the the resources of the bureau. They are called as advocates. These are the fourth type of bureaucrats advocated by Anthony Downs. Fifth is statesman, having sense of public interest. Statesman is a person who has a sense of public interest, which may be advanced by increasing their power so as to realize their goals. So public interest is a good kind of interest which works in the interest of people. So this is the fifth kind of bureaucrat that is suggested by Anthony Downs, and you should remember this because UPSC, as I said, had already asked in 2011. They had asked to compare Anthony Downs and William Niskanen. So when you have to compare these two people, you must know about what they suggested, right? So remember these five kind of bureaucrats suggested by Anthony Downs. Climbers, who are concerned with only power and prestige. Conservers, who are concerned with minimizing change, who are concerned with conserving. Zealots, who are highly motivated. Advocates, who are concerned with only maximizing their resources. And statesmen, they have a sense of public interest, they work for people. Moving ahead, our third thinker is William Niskanen. William Niskanen's theory is based on exchange of output for a budget. Now in one of the previous slides I had told you that public choice theorists argued on politics as a means of exchange. So this means of exchange comes from Niskanen, William Niskanen. So he says that there is an exchange of output for a budget. In our traditional bureau and government, they always work for exchange. We'll look how. His work provides the definitive theoretical rationale for why bureaucratic behavior begets inefficiency. Bureaucracy has largely become inefficient. This is what the work of William Niskanen tells us. His work provides us the definitive theoretical rationale for why bureaucratic behavior begets inefficiency, why bureaucracy has become inefficient. This is what William Niskanen tells us. His work was the first systematic effort to study bureaucracy within a public choice framework. This is self-explanatory. Moving on to our next point. Niskanen conceptualized a bureau as a non-profit organization. Now pay attention to this. Niskanen conceptualized a bureau. Bureau is what? Which consists of bureaucrats. So he conceptualized a bureau as a non-profit organization financed by either a budget appropriation and or a grant from its sponsor. For example, a mayor. Indian case mein this example would be a government. Okay, so he says that there are two actors in play. What are these two actors? One is bureau, one is sponsor. Okay, so bureau is a non-profit organization which is financed by a sponsor. And how does the sponsor finance bureau? Either by budget appropriation, yearly budgets या तो होंगे, or by grants. Okay, so Niskanen says that one of the sponsor example is a mayor. In Indian example, it is the government. It is the government which give grants to the bureaus to perform the day-to-day tasks. So he says that bureau tried to maximize its budget. The sponsor gave budget to bureau, so the bureau tried to maximize its budget. Niskanen provided a theoretical basis for ensuring that maximization succeeded. He said that bureau tried to maximize its budget, and he also gave a theory that how this maximization succeeded. His theory says that the reasoning rested on the theory of bilateral monopoly. Bilateral monopoly is जहाँ पे सप्लाई और डिमांड दोनों की मोनोपोली होती है. देयर इज ओनली वन पर्सन डिमांडिंग एंड देयर इज ओनली वन पर्सन सप्लाइंग. सो दिस इज bilateral monopoly. So this is how maximization succeeded. This is the theory of Niskanen. He says that the bureau offers an output to its sponsor in exchange for its budget. So जो bureau होता है वो एक output देता है. What is that output? Implementation of programs of government, implementation of different schemes of government. This is done by bureau. So this is the output of bureau, and it does this in exchange for the budget provided by the government. So this is how the exchange theory of Niskanen works. Okay, now this is an important question because William Niskanen is already asked in UPSC, as I had already told you. So please pay attention to this. He says that bureau tried to, first of all there are two actors. One is bureau, one is sponsor, and bureau is the one who gives output, and sponsor is the one who gives money to the bureau. So bureau tried to maximize this money, bureau tried to maximize this budget given by sponsor, and there is a kind of bilateral monopoly, and that is how this maximization of budget succeeds, because there is only one person offering it this output and there is only one person giving the budget. So this is how the bilateral monopoly works according to William Niskanen. His theory is based on, as you can see, exchange of output for a budget, exchange of output for a budget. So एक आउटपुट देता है ब्यूरो इन एक्सचेंज फॉर अ बजट. दिस इज विलियम निस्कानेन्स थियरी. Hence both have the considerable power, control and bargaining strength. क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट और स्पॉन्सर इज द वन गिविंग मनी, दे हैव कंसिडरेबल पावर. दे कैन डिक्टेट द ब्यूरो on some terms and tell them to proceed as per given instructions, and on the same time, since bureau is the only one giving output, since bureau is the only one implementing these schemes and programs, they also have considerable power. So both have considerable power, control and bargaining strength. So this is the theory of William Niskanen. Remember this. The bureau tends to be budget maximizers and sponsor tends to be bureau shapers. Very simple words, very self-explanatory. Budget maximizers are the bureaus who try to maximize their financial support, and sponsor tends to be bureau shapers. They tend to be directors, they tend to direct what the bureau should achieve. They both have considerable power and bargaining strength. Moving on to our most important thinker, Vincent Ostrom. Now we saw a quote of Ostrom which he said in the first slide. In the very first slide we saw a quote of Vincent Ostrom. Now what I have done in this slide is I have divided this quote into simple terms. He criticized the central assumptions of classical paradigms. He criticized traditional bureaucracy, right? And what does this traditional bureaucracy stood for? There must be single center of power, there should be hierarchical order. So he criticized these things. If you, as I said, you do not have to remember the quote as such, just remember the idea behind it. So Vincent Ostrom criticized the single center of power, he criticized the hierarchical order, he criticized the classical paradigm as such, he criticized the classical, that is the traditional or the old thought. And he argued that there is little evidence to support that bureaucratic administration is the most efficient form of administration. He said that if you perfect this traditional bureaucracy, perfection in this will reduce the efficiency of bureaucracy. So he said that this bureaucratic administration is not the most efficient administration. He said that there is only little evidence to support this fact that bureaucratic administration is the most efficient form of administration. As you would also remember, in the very first slide we said that Vincent Ostrom was the only person who said there should be democratic administration alongside the bureaucratic administration. So he emphasized on that too. This everything he talked about in his book, The Intellectual Crisis in American Public Administration. Why I am making this quote of his book? In every slide there is a book of some author given, just because of the simple fact in UPSC 2015. In 2015 UPSC asked that what did Dwight Waldo say in this book. So you do not need to remember the book as such. I am just quoting this because if ever a book is quoted in a question, you just need to quote the idea of the author, because उस book में author ने वही बोला होगा what we are studying, right? So this, you do not have to remember this book. This book, if asked, will be mentioned in the question, and all you have to do is attach the idea of the thinker with the book. The basic elements of this theory include authority should be divided. Now understand something, he was against the single center of power, right? He was against the single center of power. So he said that authority should be divided, there should not be centralization, there should be decentralization. So authority should be divided. And why it should be divided? To limit and control the exercise of पॉलिटिकल पावर को लिमिट करना है और उस पर कंट्रोल एक्सरसाइज करना है. सो अथॉरिटी को डिवाइड करो, अदरवाइज पॉलिटिशियंस करप्ट हो जाते हैं, इन व्यू ऑफ करप्टिबिलिटी ऑफ पॉलिटिशियंस, पॉलिटिकल डिसीजन मेकर्स. सो ऑथोरिटी शुड बी डिवाइडेड, ही सेड. स्टिमुलेट हेल्दी एंड डेमोक्रेटिक competition among government agencies. Again, what does this mean? Institutional pluralism. सब different words हैं, but it means one and only same thing. As you can see, democratic competition among government agencies. And how can competition be achieved? By plurality of agencies. So stimulate healthy and democratic competition among government agencies. Multi-organization arrangements should be made. Again, institutional pluralism. Multi-organization arrangements are better than monocentric administrative. Single center of power नहीं होना चाहिए. There should not be monocentric administrative apparatus. हायरार्किकल ऑर्डर नहीं होना चाहिए. देयर शुड बी मल्टी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अरेंजमेंट्स. डेमोक्रेटिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इज मोर एफिशिएंट देन ब्यूरोक्रेटिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. डेमोक्रेटिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन शुड बी साइड बाय साइड विद ब्यूरोक्रेटिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. सो दीज आर द थॉट्स ऑफ विंसेंट ऑस्ट्रॉम. रिमेंबर दिस, ही इज अ वेरी important person. He is a key proponent of public choice approach or public choice theory. Now we will look at some miscellaneous terms in public choice approach. We have basically dealt with everything in public choice approach to deal with. Now some miscellaneous terms. Provision of public goods and services. Now from the very first slide we are seeing provision of public goods and services. Now what are these public goods and services? So notice that public good has two characteristics. First is non-rival consumption and next is non-exclusion. What does non-rival consumption mean? Very simple. It is consumption by one does not diminish the quantity left for someone else to consume. Non-rival consumption means there is no rivalry in consuming the public good. That is what is known as public good. अगर मैं कुछ चीज कंज्यूम करता हूँ विच इज़ अ पब्लिक गुड और पब्लिक सर्विस, इट डज नॉट diminish the quantity left for you. For example, national defense. National defense is a public service. Cable TV broadcast it is a public service. So if I am watching TV, it does not diminish your quantity to watch TV. So this is a non-rival consumption. So consumption by one does not diminish the quantity left for someone else to consume. There is no rivalry in consumption. That is a public good. अगर rivalry आती है, it is not a public good at all. Second characteristic is non-exclusion. Non-exclusion are those goods that are impossible or extremely expensive to confine to a few people. You cannot exclude a certain section of society from consuming it. Such are public goods. Such is public service. Like for example, again, national defense. You cannot exclude a particular section of society from enjoying the national defense. So non-exclusion and non-rival consumptions are two characteristics of public good. Now there are three types of public goods. One is pure public good. Pure public goods are both non-rival and non-exclusion. Now these are very rare. These public goods are there, but these are very rare. Pure public goods are मतलब दोनों characteristic होते हैं उसमें. They are non-exclusionary and they are also non-rival. So both non-rival and non-exclusion characteristics are there. The other one which is more common is club goods. Club goods are non-rival but exclusionary. Exclusionary like you can exclude some section of society from enjoying that. For example, cable TV broadcast. You can exclude some section of society. If a cable channel wants, it can exclude a particular group of people from not enjoying a particular cable TV. So it is exclusionary but it is non-rival. Such is called as club goods. Cinema theater. Cinema theater में भी there are in some theaters there are rules that chappals are not allowed in theaters or you should be only in shoes. So such is exclusionary characteristics of club goods, but it is non-rival. Non-rival in the sense that if I consume something, it does not diminish your quantity to consume it. So it is non-rival but exclusionary. Some section of society can be excluded. Third kind of public good is impure public goods. Impure public goods are rival. They are, हमने पहले दो पढ़े which were non-rival. Impure public goods are rival consumptions, but they are difficult to exclude. They are non-exclusionary लेकिन they are rival. For example, congested roads. Congested roads में क्या होता है? If in a congested road I am driving my own vehicle, it actually diminishes your ability to drive your vehicle. So it is a rival consumption. Roads are a rival consumption, but they are difficult to exclude. Why they are non-exclusion? Because it is difficult to tell some group of people to not use the roads. Okay, so it is rival but difficult to exclude. These are impure public goods. These are also public goods, but impure public goods. Pure public goods are very rare. Then the most prevalent type is the club goods, and then comes the impure public goods. Public choice theories have provided incisive analysis for the supply of club goods. As I said, club goods are more common, so public choice theories, what public goods they are focused on? PCA theories are focused on only club goods. They have not included pure public goods and impure public goods. Pure and impure को उन्होंने हाथ नहीं लगाया. They have provided much more detailed analysis about club goods. So this is what public goods and services means. Since the first slide we have seen that public goods and services, this is what it means. It means club goods, not pure and not impure. Okay, so moving ahead, some criticisms. Now every theory must have some criticisms, so criticisms. Now this is very simple because it asks for expansion of market and minimization of state. So everything that criticizes private administration, you stick that as criticism of public choice approach. It challenges the notion of representative democracy. It says that collective decision making of government is just romanticism. So representative democracy के notion को challenge करती है. This is one of the criticisms. Public interest has been treated as mere sum of individual self-interest. Its criticism of political leaders and civil servants as being motivated solely by self-interest is unfair. As we have seen, basic assumption is that every human being is individualistic, every human being is dominated by their self-interest. So this concept that politicians and civil servants, everyone is motivated by their self-interest is unfair. This is one of the criticisms. So हर point पे आप कुछ ना कुछ criticize कर सकते हो. It is too sweeping a statement that takes values and public spiritedness completely out of administration. It says that government collective decision making is just a romanticism. So it takes the values and public spiritedness completely out of administration. As we have seen, it is against the idea of public interest theory. So it is too sweeping a statement that takes the values and public spiritedness completely out of the administration. Replacement of public administration by market exchange is too simplistic an idea to be taken seriously. इतना सिंपल नहीं होता है कि सब कुछ को मार्केट से एक्सचेंज कर दो. So it is too simple an idea. It is too simplistic an idea to be taken seriously. Public administration cannot be too simply replaced by market. The state monopoly could be substituted by far more dangerous private monopoly. They said that state monopoly is dangerous. They were against state monopoly. But what if state monopoly is substituted by more dangerous private monopoly? Private monopoly is more dangerous. To say that efficiency is the sole aim of government is to trivialize government. It has higher goals such as equality, equity and welfare. ठीक है, तो अगर efficiency ही sole aim अगर आप लेते हो, public choice approach का एक basic criticism ये था कि traditional approach is focused only on efficiency. So they say that efficiency is the sole aim of government. अगर आप ये बोलते हो, you are saying that you are actually trivializing the government. To say that efficiency is the sole aim is to trivialize the government. Government actually has higher goals like equality, equity and welfare, which is nothing but public interest. So you cannot just sweep the public interest theory. It is not too simple and as an idea. The market mechanism does not automatically ensure competition. You say that competition should be there, but there is no saying that market mechanism will automatically ensure competition. For example, big multinational corporations, big MNCs first establish and then exploit the market dominance to eliminate other players. तो ये मार्केट कंपटीशन नहीं होता है. दिस इज इन अ सेंस नेगेटिव कॉम्पिटिशंस. सो जो बिग एमएनसीज होती हैं, दे फर्स्ट एस्टैब्लिश देमसेल्व्स एज इन द नेम ऑफ कंपटीशन, लेकिन आफ्टर दे हैव एस्टैब्लिश देमसेल्व्स दे एक्सप्लॉइट द मार्केट डोमिनेंस बाय एलिमिनेटिंग द अदर स्मॉलर प्लेयर्स. सो कंपटीशन फाइनली गेट्स एलिमिनेटेड. Citizens' choice is thus constricted. Market has no sympathy for those who cannot afford. They are simply guided by the notion of profit. They are simply guided by the notion of gains. So they have no sympathy for those who cannot afford. But government has this. Government has this public interest. So this is a cause of concern for developing countries. Developing countries cannot afford this line of thought that market that does not have any sympathy for who cannot afford. This is a cause of concern for developing countries which have a large number of poor people like India. It forgets the important role of state vis-a-vis market. So state का भी एक important role होता है vis-a-vis market. What is that? To regulate the market. So public choice approach does not dwell any light on this. The state has to enforce contracts, it has to adjudicate disputes, it has to curb monopolies. In short, it has to regulate market, it has to provide a basic environment for market to grow. So public choice approach does not emphasize on this role of state. They just say that market का emphasis बढ़ाओ, but they do not say that what role state will play in respect to this market influence. It is crudely ahistorical. Ahistorical means it does not consider what history has taught us. It is crudely ahistorical. In early stages of development, a state may not have well developed private sector. This is what every history teaches us, that in the early stages of development, for example India, in the early stages of development a state may not have well developed private sector. ठीक है, private sector उतना well developed नहीं होगा. State is the only instrument of development there. So public choice approach neglects this history, neglects this historical facts. It is crudely ahistorical. So these were the criticisms. Now we are actually done with public choice theory or public choice approach. I hope you have understood everything in it. Now these are some practice questions. As I always say, please practice these questions. Practice questions are very important. It is just the initial hesitation that you have to overcome, and it will improve the quality of your answers. You can pause the video on this slide and note down the questions and practice them. As you can see, UPSC 2015 में question एक आया था. UPSC 2011, I have told you about this. In UPSC 2011 they had asked about Downs model and Niskasen's model. So they asked to compare this. This was a 30 marks question. You can write it in 20 marks or 15 marks because 30 marks are not asked in UPSC as of these years. So this was a previous year question. What it says is, whereas Downs model is largely dependent on a theory of psychological motivation. What was Downs model? If you remember, Anthony Downs gave us 5 types of bureaucrats. So what basically Downs does is, he depends on psychology of bureaucrats. He decodes the psychology of bureaucrats for you, right? What these 5 kinds of bureaucrats think is what Downs model is. So whereas Downs model is largely dependent on a theory of psychological motivation, Niskanen's model is framed by neoclassical thinking. Now neoclassical thinking, what I said is very simple, right? Neoclassical is what comes after classical. Public choice approach as a whole depends on criticism of classical approach, criticism of the traditional model of hierarchy and top down model and all those classical model, rules and principles वाला model. ठीक है, so classical thinking के बाद आता है आपका neoclassical. It will be obviously against all those classical thoughts. So Niskanen's model is framed on neoclassical thinking. What did Niskanen give us? The theory of exchange, if you remember. In the light of the above, discuss the public choice approach to decision making. So you have to compare these two models and you have to discuss the public choice approach. So this is a very simple question. The words are very challenging if you see it for the first time. Psychological motivation, neoclassical thinking, Downs, Niskanen. So do not get bogged down by words. Just when you are, remember this, that when you are faced with a difficult word, focus on what actually would be the true meaning of that word. The word might look difficult, but it actually very simple. What it says is what it looks like. Neoclassical is what it says is what it looks like. Neoclassical comes after classical. So in UPSC 2015 also there was a question, discuss how the public choice theory promotes the concept of steering and undermines the concept of rowing. Now steering and rowing, these are the concept which we will study in future sessions. There is a concept of reinventing government by Osborne. So we'll discuss this steering and rowing concept. For explaining you simply in today's lecture, it would be like when you row a boat, okay, when you row a boat in a river, there are two concepts. One is of steering the boat and one is rowing the boat. Rowing the boat is rowing the boat forward in water, and what is steering? Giving it a direction. So basically steering and rowing is, public choice theory promotes the concept of steering. It gives more of a direction and undermines the concept of rowing in visualizing efficient and effective administration. So you will understand this while you will study reinventing government, but if you you want to attempt, I would suggest you that you please do write this answer, especially these two UPSC questions, not for 30 marks. This was, you can write it for 10 and 20 marks or 15 marks. Set a limit for yourself and then try to write an answer. And finally, thank you, and please subscribe to the channel if you do not want to miss the future upcoming videos, and also like and comment on the video if you like the way I teach. Also tell me what you want me to take up next. My next session would be uploaded very soon. The links for my channel and the playlist would be in the description of this video. Please do watch all the videos and in order so that everything would be interconnected. And thank you. Hope to see you again in my next session. Peace out.